Emma and Dean's paths cross during a school trip to help a community. They end up lost on an island after a wild boat party. Will they survive and find their way back home? Keep watching to know what happened. The movie started at the home of a girl named Emma who got ready for school. Emma called out to her younger sister Stacy to let her know they would be late. At the same time, a boy named Dean chose to play video games instead of going to school. His dad, Jack, came to tell him to get ready for school. Emma's mom, Barbara, drove Emma and Stacy to school. She told the girls that she loved them and asked what they wanted for dinner. As Stacy tried to open the door, Dean drove past and almost hit her. Stacy yelled at Dean, calling him a jerk, but Barbara told her not to speak that way. Inside the school, Emma went to talk to her best friend Lizzie. Emma wanted them to go to class early, but Lizzie thought they could wait a few more minutes to talk about boys. A quarterback named Steven walked by and greeted Emma by her name, making Lizzie excited. She believed that Steven liked Emma. Emma urged Lizzie to go to class before they got late. When they struggled to find their seats, Dean accidentally bumped into Emma and apologized by calling her a prom queen. Their teacher, Mr. Christensen, informed the students about an excursion where they would go to a town to help with community work. During class, Lizzie teased Dean about his daddy issues, which made the whole class laugh. During lunch, Lizzie and Emma ate with two friends, Helen and Jude. Lizzie announced that Steven knew Emma's first name, meaning Emma might get to sleep with him during the excursion, which usually happened with people who knew each other's first names. Emma did not seem excited about this idea because she had a plan for all the good things she wanted to do during the excursion. Lizzie noticed Emma looking at Dean, who sat alone with his legs on the cafeteria table. A teacher came to take Dean to the principal's office, and it looked like he would not be able to go on the excursion. The next morning, Barbara helped Emma pack a trailer full of clothes for the trip that would last a few days. Emma's dad, Phil, came by to talk to the ladies and wondered what they would do when Emma went to college if they packed so much for a short trip. Meanwhile, Dean told his dad that he did not want to go on the excursion because he did not talk to any of his classmates. His dad encouraged him to go because it would be a chance to help others, and Dean agreed, reluctantly. Soon after, the parents drove their kids to the bus to leave for the excursion. Steven came to say hi to Emma, which made Lizzie even more excited that the excursion would be a great one for Emma. They arrived at a local resort, and all the students decided to have fun in the pool, except for Dean, as usual. While Emma played with Steven in the pool, she caught sight of Dean, who stood on the top floor of the resort. Dean walked away, and the other students continued to have fun in the pool. Later, Mr. Christensen and the students went to work on some building projects for the community. That night, Jude suddenly came with news that Steven had invited them to a boat party with a local, and he specifically wanted to see Emma. Emma hesitated, but Lizzie threatened to tie her up and drag her to the party. The girls got dressed up and went to the boat party. Lizzie got distracted by a guy and left Emma alone. Emma looked around, trying to find Steven. Sadly, she saw Steven kissing a girl. Dean, who stood nearby, asked her if that was her man, pointing at Steven. Emma asked him defensively why he was asking that and walked away. Soon the police arrived and ruined the fun, causing all the guests to rush and hide their drugs. In the chaos, Emma stumbled and fell out of the boat. Dean saw this and jumped into the water to help her. He got her into a lifeboat and detached it from the boat to avoid getting into more trouble with the police. Emma protested against this, but he told her he had a plan. The police directed the party boat away while they waited behind. Just then, a rainstorm started, and they struggled to stay afloat. The next morning, the community ended the students' trip because of their behavior, and Mr. Christensen prepared to take them home. They realized that Dean and Emma were missing and called the police. The police thought the missing students must have gone off to have crazy fun, but Lizzie insisted that Emma didn't have a fun bone in her body. Meanwhile, Dean and Emma floated across the water in the lifeboat. Eventually, they spotted an island, and Emma made Dean paddle toward it. They paddled to the island, and Emma suggested that they find a phone and a hotel, as if there were gorillas on the island just waiting to offer a landline. They both searched the island, and it turned out that Dean knew a thing or two about living in the woods. He saved Emma from eating some poisonous berries and laughed when she almost had a heart attack over a silly bug. After walking for hours, they eventually gave up on finding a hotel. They walked back to the shore and discovered that the waves had carried their lifeboat away. They decided to find a place to hide for the night, hoping that the police or their families would find them soon. Dean felt sure that people were looking for Emma, but he thought no one would care to look for him. Meanwhile, Jack, Barbara, and Phil hurried to the school after hearing the news to find out what was happening. They seemed angry, but they tried their best to find out what the police in Miami were doing to locate their kids while they worked on getting the next flight to Miami. In the woods, Emma and Dean played George of the Jungle. They tried to build a shelter from the rain, and Dean talked to Emma about her college plans. Barbara, Phil, and Jack soon reached Miami, but it looked like the rescue party was starting to lose hope after a few days. Meanwhile, Dean and Emma kept building, eating coconuts, and growing closer. The temperature was high, so they often walked around half naked, and Dean sometimes checked Emma out. One time, Dean wrapped his arm around Emma while he was half asleep, and she let him. The next morning, she asked him to keep watch while she went to the lake to bathe, as she thought she had been hearing strange animal noises. In the city, Phil decided to go back home to take care of Stacy, whom they had left behind. When the police called off the rescue search, Jack hired a helicopter so he and Barbara could look for the children themselves. On the island, Dean and Emma wondered if their families were still searching for them. While exploring, Dean found the rotting corpse of a man, which frightened Emma. She became hysterical and said they might end up like him. Dean tried to calm her down and assured her that the dead man could be a criminal and that they weren't like him. He reminded her that she had family looking for her and assured her that he was there with her. They held each other tightly and soon started to kiss. Their passion quickly turned into lovemaking, and they enjoyed their time together. Their breaths must have smelled quite strong. The next morning, Emma woke up and noticed that Dean was gone. She thought he must have felt it was just a one-night stand and left to avoid any commitments. She became scared and ran into the woods calling his name. Eventually, she found him digging in the ground. She confronted him about leaving her, and he explained that he wanted to give the corpse a proper burial, but he didn't say much more. Emma realized Dean had a deeper emotional connection to the situation, so she asked him what was wrong. He told her to leave him alone because they weren't that close just because they had made love. She replied that it was a mean thing to say, and he admitted that he was a mean guy. She tried to reach out to him but tripped and hurt herself. Dean quickly jumped up to help her. After he took her to the lake, he looked for some leaves to tend to her wound. He apologized for what he said and told her he didn't know what he would do if she got hurt. She shared her worries about their situation, but he reassured her that they had no choice but to try to figure things out.